Is there a way to start it without it recording?
It can, but just because of like how it's been saving in Zoom, I have it to already like reset and start. But I can change that setting, or I don't know how the other meetings are set up.
Yeah, I noticed some of our TDC meetings, they started the recording sooner than what I would have wanted, because then there's like 10 or 15 minutes of people just chit-chatting.
Right. But yeah, there's a setting in Zoom that you can change that.
You see, you have to be recorded before they're supposed to be recorded. I invited you to them. We're just doing a little after meetings. Team meeting, we're just going to do a little discussion about what needs to be presented and what's going to be up on the screen, what's going to be handed out. So, this, Chelsea will have to have copies ready to be handed out. But, we may also want it above the screen. So, I don't know what it's going to do. It's just going to be me doing highlights something we last year. I just did like the highlight. Or we want to do kind of like what we did to do today, just go through it like we did today. So I'll have to kind of see. The TDC is not usually as into the details as the committee. So, I could do like a high level and then say if there are questions, we can dig into it.
And I won't see it beforehand.
They're tuning in here. Right there. I texted him last night. You good for a moment?
Yeah, I finally got a response from him too. So he said he'd be here.
Hey.
Long time no see. You get caught in that storm going back yesterday.
It definitely slowed down. It was raining so hard, it was hard to even see the computer lines on the road.
I talked to my
Yeah, there was like a wall. You could see it as we were driving that direction. We're just fine here when we left. Like we were driving back in that direction.
Yeah,
yeah,
but we're gonna.
Yeah,
We're talking about
30 minutes.
Right.
Flares on.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. It's supposed to rain again today. So maybe,
yeah.
That hurts.
It'll be later.
They were both like summer.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
People want vacation all summer, pushes in September, it hurts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That one, can we? They were right.
Yeah, Teresa, she's like, you gotta go.
Well, what would we do without our assistants prompting us?
Okay, well, it's 2:00.
Yeah, good time.
Excellent.
When we have a quorum.
And we have it for all of all right. We don't really have to do roll call, do we?
We don't have to, but I mean,
Let's
we know
do introductions one more time. It's always helpful. Let's start down here with
Chelsea De Silva, Office of Tourism.
May Fleming, learning to be a real estate agent.
okay.
Pam Rothenberg, Tuckaway Shores Resort.
Howard Schwartz with Kenny Space Center Visitor Conference.
Keith Winston, Brevard Sioux.
Peter Heinous, the Office of Tourism.
Laura Beebe with the Office of Tourism.
Heather Lewis, Ron Jones.
Christina Bourne, City of Pompeii. Rebecca Essek, Anbar.
Great. Do we have any conflicts of interest today? Hearing none. Good. We take a motion for approval of marketing committees from April 11th.
I make a motion.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
And approval of marketing committee for May 16th. Take a motion. We have a second.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor? Excellent. All right, now we can turn it over to Peter and his team. Pretty easy. Step out of the room for 1 second.
Exhausted.
Yeah, I hate being with them. I'm so sorry. Take notes if I need to. Well, great. Well, very excited to share with you our marketing plan for next fiscal year. We've been working hard on it, made a lot of iterations. We've met with a few folks and shared kind of a preview of it and got some feedback. So hopefully you guys will enjoy hearing a lot of this. Some of it you've heard before, some of it will be new. So we'll get right into it. So first of all, I always like to start with the budget, kind of just a level set of what we're seeing, both from the past and also as we go look forward to the future. So this is a nice little eye chart that we've had for a number of years that shows, you know, going back to 14, 15, when TDT was down under 13 million. And it's been steadily climbing. Obviously, the COVID year was the 1 year was an anomaly, but even right after COVID, the next year we bumped right back up higher. We went from 16 million in 19 to almost 17 million in 21. And then the last couple of years have just been really double-digit growth. Our budget this year was set at 27 million, and we don't believe we're going to hit that. It's been interesting. It's been kind of a little bit of a roller coaster. Some months have been way under the prior month from the year before, and some have been over. And May was a good example of that. May we were up 5%. So we'll see where the summer comes, but we think we're going to end somewhere in that 26 million range, maybe a touch over. So we're hoping to beat the 25.5. That's the goal. Obviously, we want to at least be better than we were last year. So it really is going to kind of fall into summer to see where we are, because we still have June, July, August. September is always sort of a soft month. So I don't know that September will necessarily be the month to help us get where we want to be. It's really going to be June, July, August. That being said, we put in, knowing that we were sort of not going to hit the 27, as we presented our budget to the county manager's office, we put in for 27 million again. And interestingly, he was like, well, let's wait and see where May is at. But May came in, and like I said, we were up about 5%, but it wasn't enough to get us on the path to 27. So he agreed to let us at 27. So that's going to go to the board. It'll go to the PDC, and then it'll go to the board in September with all the other county budgets. And then I do this.
Peter, it's usually never terribly controversial, because if you don't have the money, then less. We budget down. Yeah, it doesn't really affect any other operations of the county. And this year we had additional carry forward that was realized, so we were sort of in good shape. And even if we're at 26 million, what that means for the marketing budget is we'd be about $500,000 shy, but I think we had over $1 million in carry forward. So we were really good in terms of where our budget was set. So we weren't really making too many major adjustments. We were just trying to adjust as we went into the end of the year. So we had a little bit of carry forward going into next year, and I'll show you that in a second. I like this slide because this is actually the net. So after you take out all of the admin fees, tax collector fees, other things that we have to withhold based on legislative guidance. So you have to hold 5% of your budget back. It ends up being actually, so on a $27 million budget, it ends up being 23 million is what it actually is. And then you see what that actually means in terms of the promotions and advertising fees, which is about 48%. And that's the number we use, plus any carry forward that we have. So that's kind of how we get to
to the neck. A lot of people ask me, well, why is it not, you know, why aren't you spending a full whatever amount? And it's like, well, we've got
Almost 15% is held back.
right. It's 5% is held from the legislature requires that, and then our admin fees are about 7%, maybe a touch over, and then the tax collector's fees are about 3%, so it ends up being about 15% hold back. And then on this slide, this is next one. Whoops. This one is revenue. So what we do is then we kind of break out, you know, where are the big chunks of money coming from. The first big chunk is that the first 25% of the first 2 cents and 100% of the 5th cent of the tax. So there's 5 pennies of the tax, right? So the first 2 pennies, we get 25% for marketing, and then of the 5th penny, you get 100%. That's about 8.1 million. And then the 4th cent, there's some requirements that we hold some funding for the stadium complex and costs in maintaining the stadium complex. It runs about 350, 400,000 a year. But after that, any dollars beyond that, in this case would be about 4.2 million would be rolled into marketing. And then we do have, like I said, we had a balance forward. We had some funds from the prior year that we didn't realize at the midterm. We were aware of it, but we didn't actually accept them and take them into the budget. We just held them for the next budget. So we have 1.85 million that'll be rolled over. So if you look at the prior year, we had 4 million, and that's really the difference is the carry forward. And the reason we had 4 million was because we had a 19 or $20 million budget one year, and we ended up at 25 million. So we ended up having a lot more funds carrying forward.
Across that 20 million mark?
Trying to think. So it would have been the second year. Yeah, it was in the second year that we crossed the 20 million. That we had 4 million because it was basically a year and a half ago. So yeah, so we have, you know, like I said, just a little short of 2 million going into next year for carry forward. So bottom line is we have 2 million less than we had this fiscal year, and that number is 13.3. And then the next slide, we'll get obviously into way more detail on this, but this is just sort of the real top line on the allocation. And it's about 12.4 million for promotional activities. And then you can see all the other kind of line items, but those are much smaller line items. So we're going to deep dive into the 12.4 as we get into the presentation a little bit. The other thing, so this was something that got instituted last year. Those of you that are on the committee were aware of this. This was sort of a negotiation between Cocoa Beach Hotel folks and the board. So this was really mandated at the board level that 50% of the marketing be split for District 2, which District 2 is Cocoa Beach and Cape Canaveral. The argument was that area generates 50% of the tax, which is approximately correct, and therefore they should receive 50% of the marketing. So that was the argument, and that's kind of where we are, and we're carrying that forward into this year. I believe the board is still in that same place as they were last year. And then we do have a disaster fund. We're not requesting additional funds. We have some interest that's been accruing so that, you know, we'll realize the interest, but it's about 1.36 million. We think that's, you know, sufficient to help us if we were to need to recover from some, you know, hurricane type event or other type of disaster where we would need to put a program into the marketplace to message. We think that's a decent amount of money, and I always worry about holding back too much. That, you know, sometimes can get criticized. So that's about the range where we think we're good. The next section you're familiar with because you've seen this. This is the visitor tracking study. I'm just going to highlight a very few things. You know, one of the things we saw in the tracking study was there were quite a few, over 60% of our visitors that did see some kind of messaging from us prior to coming here, and mostly, you know, we see a lot with the website. Two of those websites we own, Visit Space Coast and Space Coast Launches, are ours. And then Visit Florida is a big one that we do a lot of partnering with. And TripAdvisor, which is just a site that's searched a lot.
I have a question for you. Did we ever figure out the sequence? Do people decide they want to come here and then later they visit Space Coast Launches? Is it secondary or is it a primary drive? Because if it's a primary drive, that's huge, that 30% of the people are coming.
Yeah, we're going to talk about it. We just launched a new website this year, and the new app was created, and we've had over 140,000 downloads of the app. So people, I think what we understand is that when people are thinking about wanting to come see a launch, they go online and they look for those resources, and you can either go to our website, which is Space Coast Launches, or you can just go into the App Store and actually download it from there. And we think people are doing that, and I think as a result of seeing, you know, what the schedule is and what the next launches are, they're making some kind of decisions. Now, if they were just coming for a vacation, they probably are focused on, you know, making their vacation plans first and then looking to see. But, you know, I think if you think about the state of Florida, people are driving around a lot and thinking about launches a lot. And if they're hearing about a crude launch, those are ones that really people get pretty excited about. So
yeah, I mean, that's the question. Are they coming here anyway and it's a secondary or is it a primary drive?
Yeah. I think you had asked this question last year, which was how many people are coming for launches. I think it's about a third of the market comes for, you know, is coming for some kind of launch or museum or Kennedy Space Center or something related to space. Yeah. Again, just, you know, this is a nice little breakdown of, you know, they're seeing our marketing and messaging in all kinds of different media outlets. And so that, you know, I think it speaks to two things. One, it speaks to the diversity of our media buys. It's important that we're in a lot of places. We want to be where people are looking. I don't necessarily look to this to help make media decisions where I would say, oh, look, billboards is number 4. We should put a, you know, that should be our 4th spend or whatever. It doesn't quite work that way, because if you're spending a lot in billboards, obviously people are going to see a lot of billboards, and then that pops up here. So it's really just telling us people are seeing our messaging in all different places, and we need to be using a lot of diverse media outlets. This one was interesting. You know, the last couple of years, we've been focused on household incomes of 100,000 plus. And so sure enough, our median age and median household income was 100,000, just under 100,000. So, you know, we're certainly fishing in the right place, and maybe we're having some influence on that as well, and trying to push that, you know, income up a little bit. People who, you know, make more, stay longer, and spend more. So those are certainly good targets for us. The other thing on this slide is really interesting is 54% of the people are flying in. You know, we always had heard and think there was a belief that we were mostly a drive-in market, but clearly, you know, we're equally a fly market as well. And that means we should be marketing in, you know, in places where people fly from. So New York, Philly, all those, you know, places, certainly Atlanta and Charlotte and places like that. So want to make sure we've got placements in places where people are coming from. And we'll get into that in a later slide where we look really at the origin markets. The other thing on the slide that's interesting is about half had kids, which means about half didn't have kids. And I think that that's a real opportunity. We talked about where are there opportunities for us to focus as we go into next year. I think there's an opportunity for us to focus a little bit more on couples without children because, you know, we've been pretty heavy family focused and I don't want to necessarily change that, but I think there's some opportunity to hit the.
Shouldn't that be seasonal, like the fall or?
It could be, it could be,
First quarter
it could
of the
be
year.
seasonal. You know, certainly summer, you see a higher percentage coming with kids because they're higher, they're out of
Yeah, but
school.
but when September hits, I mean, it's retirees
Mhm.
that have nothing to do but get in the car and.
And we're gonna talk a little bit about our fall. Right, right. We're gonna talk a little bit about our fall winter campaign and that really is, I think, gonna have a bigger focus on families without kids coming. So and then, you know, of course, we know they're staying in hotels. They're certainly, you know, staying in vacation rentals. That's important. They're staying, obviously, we talked about Cocoa Beach, Cape Canaveral generating about half the TDT. So they're coming from, you know, they're staying in those areas, but they're certainly staying all over Brevard. And that's grown as more hotel inventory and vacation rental inventory is kind of gone throughout the county. We're seeing these numbers become a little bit more on parity. Obviously, you know, Cocoa Beach still kind of is the king, if you will, but these other areas are really growing and have grown over the last couple of years. And then, you know, just our spending data, where you're really using this a lot now that we're starting to talk about like events and different things that we're promoting. You know, we're always looking at how long are people staying, what are they spending. It's about $200 a day per person, about just under $2,800 per family or per party, if you will, per trip. So that's good information for us. And then the cruise is similar. They are, you know, just slightly more affluent. Their income was about 115,000, but they're certainly, you know, spending a touch more, over 3,000, even though they're not staying quite as long. So that's obviously a good market for us, and we want to keep targeting them. And then internationally, same thing. You know, their income's about the same, but you know, they're probably staying longer, and so overall they're probably spending a bit more. And then, you know, the thing that we always have learned and understand is that when people have come once or twice, they're very likely to return. You know, you can see the numbers here. People, you know, between the question that we asked, it was over 80% are planning, almost 90% planning to come back again at some point within the year. A lot of them even within 3 or 6 months. So, you know, we want to make happy, treat our visitors well, and make them happy because they will come back.
Do you know how we compare these things versus other? I'm assuming versus Disney, for example, the average spend here is a third. And in terms of likely to return, are we higher than other markets?
Yeah, I don't know the last question on Disney. I just saw some data on Orlando, and their visitors, the Orlando visitor spending was actually lower than ours. But I bet you if you fine-tuned into Disney itself, then it might be either on a par or maybe a little bit higher, because we don't have attraction tickets as much of a big part of the spend. Obviously, if they're going to Kennedy or the zoo or things like that, there is some of that, but the Disney tickets are, you know, $1,000 for a family, if not more. So it's a bigger chunk, I think, for Disney. But if you just look at Orlando as a whole, our spend was actually a little bit higher than the Orlando spend, which is interesting.
And it might be useful at some point to look at that
comparative.
But yeah, likely to recommend in cost, because I wonder if part of our perception is a bargain in value. And when you look at higher markets, do they return as much or do they return less?
Yeah, no, it'd be a nice piece of research to do for sure.
Peter, through this, do we know how many of those that are coming into the marketplace stay in the marketplace, or do they, you know, like from a hotel or B2B business, or Or are they staying more in Orlando and driving in for the day, the beaches?
Yeah, that was a piece of the visitor study that we did not capture. And so we're actually this coming year, we're going to do a second part of the visitor study, which is going to focus on day trippers and
So these are all overnight guests.
these are very much overnight that the data comes from. So the day trippers are the piece of the puzzle that we really want to understand a little bit more. Is, you know, are people, first of all, you know, draw 150 mile circle around us, that's where people would probably most likely be coming from. But also people that are staying in Orlando, doing the Disney experience and then coming for a day, trying to understand that a little bit more and understand what do they do and then what do they spend while they're here. And then what's the potential to convert them, even more importantly, you know, what could we do to convert them in the future? So that's, yeah, it's a piece of research. I was just actually talking about the instrument, the survey instrument that we're going to use earlier today. So we're going to put that into the market probably in the next month or two, and then it'll be in the market for a good 6-8 months, and then we'll do very much a similar type of study as we did with the visitors. So
when you said 91% of the cruise people stayed overnight, that's because you only surveyed people who stayed overnight.
It was an outcome of the study. It wasn't an intent, but that's what ended up happening. Was the people that answered the survey were very much people that were staying overnight.
But it wasn't limited to that.
No, it wasn't.
Oh,
it wasn't. Yeah, no, it wasn't limited to that, but it turned out that's what it was. So I think in understanding the day tripper, and we even have a series of questions about cruise. You know, did you come here to go to a cruise? Did you come here and stay longer than 4 hours? That's what we consider a day tripper, is 4 hours or greater, but not overnight. That'll help us understand that cruise piece a little bit and say, you know, how many people are really coming or what percentage are coming and doing a cruise and not staying overnight. So
because it looks huge.
Yeah.
But if you're only surveying the people who stayed overnight, it's
and this survey is going to be very purposeful to just capture people that are day trippers only, and it'll actually kick them out of the survey if they're don't pre-qualify themselves as, yeah, I was only here for the day. So that'll be an interesting piece of research as well. And then we just looked a little bit at the hotel inventory. It's important because I think there's two things happening this year. Beginning to kind of formulate a theory on why we're not hitting the 27 million. And that is, one, I think last year was a peak year, and I think we're just bumping up against, you know, that peak number, and it's very hard to push it higher. But also, we didn't have a lot of room inventory growth. We had the International Palms about a little over a year and a half ago was taken out of inventory, and we only added a couple of hotels in the interim. So we really didn't have any significant room growth. Well, that's going to change next year. We've got about 7 more properties. We opened up 2 properties this year, about 6, 7 more opening up within the next 6 to 8 months. And I think that'll really help fuel next year's numbers. Will it get us to 27? We'll see. I think that between that and a good economy, I think we could get there. But that it was really when we had 10,500, 10,600 rooms, and now we're at 10,700. We're going to jump to about 11,300, 11,400 pretty quickly, and so I think that's going to help the numbers grow. And then you can see on just total room night demand, we were down in 23, and I don't think in 24, I think we're going to be flat. And then as we go into 25, then I think that number is going to grow. So that's where I think we're going to see, some good potential growth next year. Rentals, this has been an interesting market for rentals. Just like a lot of beach communities, we've seen a huge growth in the inventory, but I believe we're seeing I think we're seeing a plateau. I think we peaked out probably last year. We had over 7,300 rooms, or I call them units. They're not rooms, they're units. So that could be a condo, it could be a house, whatever you want to call it. About 5,000 of those are in Airbnb, and then about 2,400 in VRBO. Most of those 2,400 are also in Airbnb. So it's probably somewhere between 5,000 and 6,000. It's probably the real number. And I think the people that jumped into the vacation rental game that maybe weren't, serious operators, if you will, or, there was somebody that had a place or saw an opportunity and it was sort of an opportunistic move for them. That's great, but it's a competitive market. It's a hard market to make, consistently good revenue in. There's good months and bad months. And I think you're going to see some fallout with that is just what I'm predicting. I think we've already seen some softening in it and a leveling, but I think we're going to see maybe even some more softening in the vacation rental. Now, that being said, it's still 1/3 of our TDT collection. So we want to make sure we, stay kind of focused. We don't want to lose focus on them, but I just think a lot of people got in the game because they thought it was easy money. And now that they've been in the game a while, realizing it's not as easy as all that.
Well, demand during COVID was much higher.
Right.
And that's
True.
when we saw a lot of growth.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. COVID and the year or two right after COVID, we saw a lot of growth. Right. And I think people were like, oh, look at this bright, shiny coin. I can jump in this game and, make a lot of money on the side. And then, now I think it's kind of leveled off. And also I think the reality of, if you've ever rented vacation rental or gone through Airbnb or whatever, I've done that quite a bit. You've got, not only do you have the regular charges, but then I got the cleaning and I've got the, this and that. And all of a sudden I'm getting hit with all these fees. And I'm like, why didn't I just stay at a hotel and I could get, so I think there's some of that where the actual consumer is going to drive that. And again, I don't think we're going to see huge shifts where it's no longer 1/3. I think it's still going to be probably 1/3 of our TDT because it's a higher average daily rate. But I just don't think we're going to see the continued growth that we saw the last couple of years. So that being said, we got into some of the strategic considerations. A lot of these didn't really change year to year. Our strategy's been pretty solid, but a few things that I think thought of going into this year is we wanted to make sure one of the strategies was to create agile campaign briefs and make sure that we had flexible media implementation plans. You'll see when we start talking about the fall winter campaign, we're going to shift the timing a little bit because we want to be flexible, but we also want to acknowledge a couple of things happening. So we've got the presidential election coming up, and October is going to be a very, very busy, loud month from a advertising perspective for that. And we don't necessarily want to be caught up in all of that. So we're going to push our campaign a little bit away from that. And then secondarily, we've been seeing a lot of growth in the January, February months. Those have always been months that I felt they had a lot more potential than what they delivered. And if you look around the state, like you go down to South Florida, you can't get in a restaurant, you can't, get a decent ADR at a hotel in Palm Beach County or Fort Lauderdale during January or February. And I kept saying, why isn't it like that for us? And I think it's just, there's a lot more Northerners that live there. So they know, hey, that's a great time to go down there. That's all the snowbirds go, but then also people just take, a couple of weeks or a week off and go in that winter time, get out of that winter cold. And I just think, people haven't really thought about that for us as much. We've been really strong in spring. We've been really strong in summer. So the last couple of years, we've been kind of promoting that and kind of talking to the audience about that. And we've seen some growth, but there's a lot more potential. So like in just as a few numbers, in March, TDT is usually over 3 million. That's the only month we've ever cracked 3 million in. In January and February, it's always been under 2 million. Well, now it's actually over 2 million. We've actually seen, and last February was 2.8. So we've actually seen those numbers grow, but we still have potential there. So I think, pushing again, being flexible in our media and trying to push a little bit past the elections and then focus a little bit on that January, February time period comes into play. The other thing is, I think it's going to be really important for us to look at the hotel booking data under one of the strategic considerations is, optimize data first decisions. And I'm always a big data person, but we've got really good data about who books after they've seen our ads. And you can argue, is it a chicken or egg thing? Are they seeing our ads and then they're booking, or are they booking and then seeing our ads, or whatever? Doesn't matter to me. The fact is we can actually look at the booking data and see the numbers, and we can kind of correlate that with our media buys. So I think that's going to be something that I really want to push hard on as we go into next year. The other thing I had mentioned on slide 22 is other strategic consideration. We were really focusing on improving our website experience. We just launched that a couple of months ago. It's doing really well. One of the things we launched was itinerary planning. So you can actually plan your itinerary and save it and email it to yourself and to your friends and family. So that's kind of a cool new feature. And then, we talked about the new app and the number of downloads and just using that app. And I think we need to just keep pushing that app out, because that's got its own sort of self-generating numbers. And then the other thing is, listening to our community and our industry. We had a couple of months ago, about 2-3 months ago, we had a sales action team meeting where we had some of the sales folks from hotels that have meetings space and convention space in them. And we got some really good feedback, and Laura will actually cover it in a later slide, but we're going to add some marketing elements to our travel industry business and try to really push the meetings market as we go into next year. So with that, I'm going to let Laura take it from here for the creative piece.
So a lot of this y'all have already seen before. We have added some new creative, but we're gonna start with billboards, and we're gonna start with Cocoa Beach. There's a lot of them. I'm gonna go through them pretty quickly, but just wanted to point out with you all that we developed the Cocoa Beach campaign. Oh, sorry.
Yep.
In partnership with the Cocoa Beach Hotel Association. So they had a lot of decision making in this process. And we've also, we're working with our agency and board to create some new creative for that campaign. So, and that's going to focus on beach and the beach activities, and then, the history and the legendary aspect of Cocoa Beach. So these are quite a few that you've already.
So one of the things we really agreed on was that, connecting the municipalities to the on the Space Coast method is still really important. So we've retained that, and that's something we're going to keep carrying forward as well.
And we do plan for next year, there won't be quite as many Cocoa Beach, but we're going to redirect some of that effort into more digital.
And we're also from outdoor, we're also looking at Brightline and seeing if we can maybe wrap a train. So that's kind of an idea that's popped up. So we're having conversations about that right now. Yeah.
All right, so these are some of the newer billboards that feature each of the other districts. And then we move into digital, and again, we're going to start with Cocoa Beach. And then into the other districts again. Item with what they're doing with billboards.
How do you think you guys could put turtle releases on the pocket lawn app as a separate piece?
It's getting tons of media.
It gets tons of media and tons of people.
Yeah.
Turtle launch.
As a subset of, I mean, if people are already looking at the lot, if you put turtle releases.
What was that one that was just recently, the like 300-pound?
We hit Bubba, but
Yeah.
you get like
Cool.
people, it is a talked about tourist experience.
Yeah.
And if you're already putting an app out, it's not that there's that many, but I'm sure people would love it that popped up on their app.
You get to
As a launch on Space Coast launches.
Yeah, well,
Yeah. Yeah. Turtle launch.
yeah.
So this is one of the newer digital ads, I was still kind of keeping the nature aspect. Fishing boards, then on Bay.
Yeah, I was just to comment on the Titusville one, that one of the things that, you know, we kept realizing was there are these unbelievable assets like Merritt Island Wildlife Refuge and the Cape Canaveral National Seashore, that there are no hotels, there's no restaurants, there's no anything there. It's just, you know, it's wild nature, but they're accessible and they're only accessible through Titusville. So we came up with the idea of a, you know, gateway to those things.
So I've got a couple of TV commercials in here. I'm not going to play these. You saw these last time we met. But I will mention that we Cocoa Beach has got several new spots that'll be added to the rotation, so those will be coming out very quickly. We're also working with Ambor to work on a new TV spot that will focus on the couples audience that we've been talking about. So that'll be coming up as well. So, as Peter mentioned, I think the key thing here that's different from what we've done previously is that added focus on the couple audience. So basically, you know, the targeting is pretty consistent with what we've been doing for a while now, several years actually. And as Peter mentioned earlier, we're going to continue to focus on those direct flight markets. Those are, we're keeping tabs on those because they tend to come in and seasonally. Those will be changing throughout the year.
Has your out-of-state markets changed at all?
Not exactly. If we go to the next slide, we can talk about our market. So this is source market data from our new cellular device tracking partner Datafy. And with the numbers you see there, that's the share of the market out of the total visitors. If you look at the out of state markets, Atlanta, New York, DC, Charlotte, Philly, Chicago, Boston, those have been very, very consistent. We did actually dip a little bit into Detroit this year, but not a lot. In past years, we've had, you know, depending on flight service out of Melbourne, we've had efforts in Raleigh, we've had efforts in Nashville. Unfortunately, that Nashville flight went away, so we haven't probably won't do much with them next year. And then Minneapolis is, you know, we have Sun Country, and we did a campaign with them, kind of a co-op campaign with them. I just heard, and I think it actually got announced today, Allegiant is going to be flying out of Cincy to Melbourne. So that's new air service that's coming. So, you know, that's where the things change. It's like if there's new air service all of a sudden from a new market, well, you know, Cincy's not in our top 25, but maybe they could be if we, you know, start promoting it. So we want to support the airport and the flight. So we'll talk a little bit about where that budget comes from in a few slides, but yeah, that's where the markets really have the opportunity to shift. In the Florida markets, you know, it's been Orlando #1 very much. You can see it's a pretty big number. But interestingly, you know, you look at West Palm, Tampa, Miami, you know, those perform super well. So obviously we want to be there and continue to market there. Jacksonville has been, you know, kind of an on and off market for us, but I'd say, you know, those numbers still look really good. And then last year we had talked about Fort Myers. You know, some of the issues that they experienced with the hurricane and having, I think, like 30 or 40% of their hotel inventory got wiped out. So we were talking about, is that a good market? And we looked at that, but in general, probably wouldn't be a market that we'd go after. And then internationally, you know, Canada is number one by far. So we want to do some things in Canada. In the UK, we've got TUI as a partner. So we're able to sort of jointly go in, and we put in $1, they put in $1. So it's a nice relationship there. And same in Germany. TUI is very active in Germany. And then we've done some things in Ireland, but next year TUI announced they're going to be doing direct service from Dublin to Melbourne. So we're going to probably do some co-ops with them in Ireland as well. So it's nice to have partners, because then you have not only additional dollars, but then you also have the actual flights that you can, you know, direct people to.
All right, so a few things to highlight here. You'll see later on in our visitor journeys, all the different touch points that our visitors use to make a decision on where and when and how to travel. So with the data we're getting from our digital partners, we're able to kind of customize and put those dollars where the visitors are actually seeing the messages. And resulting from that is we get to drive them through that visitor journey right through to booking. We talked earlier about Cocoa Beach, and a lot of their marketing is in the billboards at home. So very much upper funnel. For the other districts, it's going to be much more lower funnel. So between the two, we've got a very good representation across all this.
What are you referring to when you say lower funnel?
If you'll turn on the next page, this is our visitor journey. A lot of times that's a marketing funnel. It's the inspiration phase and all
right.
steps.
Okay.
So,
all right.
Yeah, so the upper funnel is kind of like that more awareness, you know, people kind of researching and figuring out where they want to go. And then when the lower funnel is really more actual booking. So trying to find, you know, media where they can actually then click and book their trip. So
yeah, I understand that, but why would Cocoa be on the upper funnel? And
it's because like things like billboards are inspirational. It may be somebody that has never heard of the destination or considered the destination. They aren't actively out there seeking information about it. So
and they're really interested in pushing the name awareness of Cocoa Beach. So that's why they went heavy. They went not only heavy billboards, but they also went heavy with TV. And you know, that's just what I've seen, at least in my experience, is that strategy is good over a period of time. So it usually takes 2, 3, 4 years as you begin to build that name awareness. Cocoa Beach already had pretty good name awareness. I think it was already a pretty strong brand, but they feel like they really want to push that more. You know, I think that the opportunity for us is to try to support that by buying media that, you know, again, we'll get people into that lower part of the funnel where they can actually book, because I think at the end of the day, the hotels are going to need the booking component. That's what they want, and that fuels our budget. So, you know, that's something that's important to us. Sorry, go back 1 second. I just wanted to make one more point about this. What I like about this is it's not just all paid, you know, so obviously paid media is a big part of that 12, 13 million that we talked about earlier. But, you know, our own media, I mean, between the app and the website and Facebook, it's millions and millions of eyeballs. So we're definitely become a pretty good player in the own space where it's our own media that's generating that. And then in terms of earned media, we've had work with, and we'll talk a little bit when we get to the PR slide, but we work with Butin Public Relations for the last probably 5-6 years. They're actually coming to the end of their second contract, so we're gonna be RFPing that business. But we really like what they've done because we've been able to get into some real national level media and really help with the earned media. So we measure the value of that earned media, like what would it cost if we had to go out and buy that media and pay for it. And it's millions of dollars that we've been able to supplement our ad campaigns with. So we're pretty happy with them. If we end up making a change, obviously we'll be looking for the same kind of thing out of a different vendor. But we think that the last couple of years we've had some pretty good hits there.
You guys are getting really good from Pinterest boards. It's up there in your top.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's an interesting one because it's not, I won't say it was necessarily a focus. We were focusing more the last 2 years on short form video and, not just TikTok, but Instagram and YouTube and things like that. But Pinterest is still going good. I mean, it's good numbers and people seem to be, aware of us. So
and more and more people are using that as a travel planner.
So what do you have out there?
I mean, we have a
What is it?
Pinterest
Are
site.
they small video? I mean, they short videos or?
I don't know if we've done a lot of video on Pinterest or not.
Or is it just visuals or?
It's usually visual.
Yeah.
So,
It's like collage boards, right?
Right.
Photo collection.
Yeah.
and you're able to save those to your own board and, for future reference, update it.
Interesting.
Like,
Yeah.
it's a glorified search engine.
It is.
Right.
I think that's you, Peter.
So this is just kind of the flow chart, just so you can kind of see a top level of what we're talking about from a planning perspective. There are paid media like billboards, like Facebook and Google AdWords that we have that we pay for all year long. So that's kind of a across the board annual awareness. But then we have 3 really particular time periods that we hone in on. I've mentioned spring and summer being really strong seasonally for us. Fall is the one that we're really looking at is can we really push that January, February travel window by starting in November and really promoting kind of that December, January, February time period. And then international, we usually start that late fall, and then that runs right into the summer because that's usually when the booking season kind of wraps up for them.
And you are right. I mean, I always find it amazing that November, December, January is like our best weather. And outside of the holidays, we don't get much.
Right.
Right. So we get, Thanksgiving, Christmas, and then the ice in the second half of January, it's like the best weather. And then February is booming with school vacations. So
Right.
I think that's a great strategy if we tell people without kids, come now.
I mean, doing destination marketing for as long as I have, and I'm doing it for Orlando, we used to always focus on fall. And we're always be like, what can we do to push September, October? Because September, October is always horrible. We put a lot of energy and a lot of effort and a lot of money into it. And I just never felt like the ROI, was there because you were kind of running upstream, right? You're kind of running, it wasn't a seasonal message that made a lot of sense to people because they were all focused on other things. I just think, with, like you said, with January, particularly December, January, February, especially in the northern markets, we've got a story to tell. The weather's great. It's just relatively reasonable. It's not busy here. It's just a good time to be here.
They haven't experienced winter yet, so they're not jonesing for the sun yet.
Not yet. But come late December, beginning of January, then that message kicks in. So anyway, so this is actually the media dollars that support those campaigns that I just showed you. So about just under 2.5 million for the annual, and then the seasonal campaigns break down where we start fall winter about about $1 million, then we ramp up as we get into spring. Obviously, spring is a very important season. Want to make sure we maintain that. And then summer is the longer, it runs from about May till August. We run the media, so we need a little bit more dollars there. So that's kind of how the flow goes. And then you can see the notes below, and second bullet point talks about beginning after November 5th for media. So wait until the election's over and then really beginning to hit it hard. And then just more operational stuff on here. When the board approves our plan, they are authorizing us to contract with all of our vendors. So we include all our possible vendors that we know. I'm not saying we will necessarily contract with all of these, but it gives us the flexibility to pick and choose which media we want to work with. And this is when the board approves our plan, it gives us the authority to contract with them. Yep.
The list is life.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I always say, if speak now, forever hold your peace, everybody. If you have a vendor you want to work with, make sure it's in the marketing plan. Because then once the board approves it, then I can sign a contract. Metrics wise, I mentioned before, the really focus on booking data, but we measure all kinds of different things. There's all kinds of market reports. We also have measurement goals. On the right is the actual performance metrics that we submit with our budget. So this actually gets submitted with our budget numbers. So we, and then we go through every quarter, we do an update on those. And then I think back to you, Laura. Earned and owned.
Few highlights here on this one. When we were starting our planning for next year and meeting with you all and then our agencies and our partners, a lot of good ideas were thrown out, and we kind of included some of them here. They haven't been nailed down at this point. But a few of the things you'll see here on the second bullet point is, scavenger hunts or photo contest, something like that. We're considering doing a museum month or a downtown or Main Street month. That would be a month-long promotion, highlighting all of the fabulous downtowns we have, things within the museum. So we're taking in all that feedback and trying to work it into our plan.
We ever done like things? There's all the space is unique to us, but other things like there's a whole litany of things you can sort of only do here, like the bioluminescence and kayaking. But there's probably half a dozen to a dozen things that are uniquely us.
Yeah, a lot of it happens during the summer. So like the turtle walks, you can actually go out and actually see a turtle lay eggs, and the biolume is huge. We're one of, I think, 3 places in North America that has that. But a lot of those things happen during the summer. So our PR, well, not necessarily, but our PR firm really does focus on those and uses those as a lot of content. So, I think it's more of a PR play with those. In the fall, last couple of years, we've had Fall is for Foodies. We've tried to get a prefix menu program off the ground, much like the Magical Dining in Orlando. We're having some real struggles getting restaurants to buy into that. So it's always been kind of a discount program. So we're pushing hard this year, but we'll see where it goes. But the message of Fall is for Foodies will be out there.
How can we help? We have 50 places to eat and drink in downtown. So
we would love for some assistance and trying to talk to
We'd love to help you.
That would be great, because we've worked with FRLA. We've gone directly to the restaurants.
They put their emails and they answer text messages and
all of that.
They're special people.
All of that. Yes, they are.
We've been working on a plan. So that associations, chambers, and all that was included in that. And we're developing some material.
If the downtown groups could help us, that'd be great.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask a simple question, which is, I don't think of us on the surface as a great food business. Let's just be honest, right? That's not, with a lot of chains, we're not terribly distinctive. But if the downtown's created distinctive, there obviously are great restaurants, But if they created distinctive offerings, that's
Yeah.
the reason.
Right.
Because, you know,
That's what we need. We need something unique, but that's a easy to
I'm just thinking
message.
the material that you have to be very specific about exactly what you want. And
Yeah.
then they're either yes or no.
yeah, if you can do something unique, that's a reason to visit. The restaurants alone, you're probably gonna find other communities that have a
Exactly.
greater critical mass of interesting restaurants.
Yeah. Yeah, but you know, when we started Magical Dining in Orlando, it was the same way. It was sort of a food desert, but there were a few, you know, good chefs, and we're like, well, let's play up the good chefs that we have. And that's how the program started. And now they do like 30,000-40,000 meals as part of Magical Dining now. You know, I'd be happy with
Yeah,
3,000 or 4,000 meals.
tell us
but-
that information. We can say what it could
Yeah.
be
Right.
to get them to do it more than once.
Yeah, and the key was having a consistent price, but
Yeah.
because
You
the
mean everybody
restaurants,
has the same price?
that was how we started over there. I don't see that working here because you have restaurants that are at the low end and you get the restaurant, you know, so Dijon's, yeah, they want $50 prefix, but then you have other restaurants that are 25 or 30, so.
Yep.
But if we could just get a prefix menu and start with that, I think that would be great.
This is probably too detailed, but I think as a traveler, I'd be interested to see a locally sourced offering as part of the prefix. When I go to someplace new, I want to see
Right.
the land and it
Right.
is like, and
Yeah.
to have like the right wine, the right courses that highlight that region. That would be great for
Yeah.
me. So anyway, just a thought.
Yeah, well, I mean, and a lot of the restaurants do that. It's like, that's what I'm so baffled by it. Because a lot of them are already, you know. They have some,
Already it's open, it's in the name, so, you know,
yeah,
you can send them there and they'll be part of the table.
Yeah. anyway, yeah, we'd love to work with anybody that would help with that.
And more to come. We've got some communications coming out this week, so.
Perfect.
The other thing I wanted to point out here was we changed our creator influencer strategy this year. It's going really smoothly, and we're getting a lot of great content. So I believe for next year, we're going to do something very similar to that. It's very focused. So previously we'd had all types of influencers come in and it was just a lot to manage. But doing it with a very focused intent has really been painful for us.
Then you want to mention the agency. Things that on the next one.
So as Peter mentioned earlier, you know, we've got 2 contracts actually expiring next year. One is our ad agency and one is PR. So we'll be doing RFPs for both of those.
You're on a 3-year or 5-year?
5, yeah. Yeah, the county requires every 5 years that you do RFPs. So all of our contracts are ultimately they're 5 years, it's 3 years with a 2-year renewal. Basically a 5-year contract. So the both of them are coming up. So we'll be going through that whole process.
And here, Peter previously mentioned that the new website that we launched in January and the new features. So I won't go over that again. And he stole my thunder with 144.
Sorry. I just get excited about that number. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, for basically an app that's, you know, just been relaunched, that's amazing.
All right, so moving on to public relations, just wanted to point out that it's through the pitching and the press releases and the fans that we bring in, that PR is really at the heart of our own media. So like I mentioned before, Beaton is our PR agency and their contract is expiring. They've done a great job for us. All right, back to you.
Okay, so we had talked about you know, airline support. This is the budget that supports that. So we have and we do other things. We've worked with the EDC. We were helpful in their new brand. They just launched a new brand. If you've heard any of the EDC material coming out about Florida Space Coast, we were part of that. but we also work very closely with the airport and with the airlines. So this new potential routes, the Cincinnati route, Minneapolis, those get supported through this budget. So that's domestic anyway. Internationally, we have a contract with TUI. It's $300,000 a year, and they match dollar for dollar. So we do a co-op. We pull $600,000 together to pull that out of the international budget. You'll see in a second. Okay, I want to talk a little bit about sports. This is a little bit different. In the past, we've had about a $220,000 to $220,000 grant program, and then we've had $100,000 just for marketing sports. We are not sure where the grant program is going, so in sort of as a plan B, we have a backup in the marketing plan that we would support various sports events with marketing support dollars. That could be dollars that we use to help them market themselves, or potentially we could sponsor events that would help event organizers bring participants here. And then you will see, this is kind of interesting, we just created a lot of new ads. So under the advertising portion for sports, we created some new ads that really focus on baseball, softball, lacrosse, crew, and not just bringing competition events, but also training. Just a lot of colleges and high schools want to bring their teams down, especially during the winter months, from up north and just train here. So that's why there's an eye chart below of all the potential event organizers, because these are all people we could potentially contract with. So I just wanted to share that, but very, very interesting growth potential. Terry Parks is our sports commissioner, and he's been doing a great job. He does a lot of outreach and goes to a lot of conferences where he meets these event organizers, and they're, from what he's hearing this past year, there's a lot of excitement about bringing teams down here. So we want to just be able to support those with some kind of marketing dollar support. And then internationally, I mentioned, we have relationships with TUI, so that's a co-op relationship. We also have our own representation in Europe and in the UK. In fact, Roxana, who's pictured there, works for Trisha Henson Consulting. She was actually living in Germany. She now lives in just outside of London, and she covers UK, Germany, Ireland, Scandinavia, kind of those markets for us. So it's great having somebody there because she's out there doing training all the time. She meets with large groups of travel agents and tour operators. So it's really great to have boots on the ground there, because otherwise you're not necessarily top of mind. But if you have somebody there that's talking to them, it becomes the kind of the face of your destination in the market to the business sector. That's really good. And then also we do in Canada, we do a direct media campaign. So we do direct to consumer marketing in Canada. So that's where that whole budget kind of covers all of that. It's a budget that works hard for us because for the $1 million, we get about almost $800,000-900,000 in matching co-op from either Visit Florida, Brain USA, TUI. So other partners contribute to those campaigns. So that really helps us. Or if you want to talk.
So on the travel industry relations side, Tom, meets with our travel advisors and travel agencies and tour operators.
Tom Kozik, by the way, he's been with us over 30 years. He's amazing.
I haven't seen Tom.
Yeah, because he travels a lot. He's out there, knocking on doors and pounding the pavement. Right. But he knows everybody in the business. Yes. So and we've got some cool opportunities coming up, not next year, but the year after. IPW, which is the big international trade show, is going to be in South Florida. So we're getting ready for that in 2 years. But he, in the meantime, he goes out and does a lot of outreach.
Yeah, so just like Roxana on the international side, it's a lot of training. He goes to a lot of the trade shows. He hosts bands.
Yep.
He works closely with the hotels and the cruise line to bring in visitors that way. Peter mentioned earlier that we had a small group meeting, a portion of the sales action team met to talk about some new efforts we could put in place to promote meeting business here. And we've had many discussions about it, and it'll be a multi-year effort, but we've already got several initiatives underway. So we're updating our website. You'll see that. We're partnering with Cvent, which is the main platform that most of these meeting planners use. And then we're joining with some of the other meeting planner associations. Longer term, we plan to do sales blitzes in some key markets, and then we're going to partner with the meeting and management firms where we can. So there may be some advertising.
Sorry, go ahead.
Is this a year-round effort? So, or are you focusing on specific seasons for the meeting?
It's yearly.
Okay.
Yeah, because meetings can happen all different times of the year, and you know, it's interesting that the business is really sort of complementary to sort of the FIT tourism, you know, consumer business, because it's usually happening during the week. So it's you know, but the website's a really cool thing, because we haven't really focused on having like an inventory of all of the space. So if you know of hotels that have meeting space or convention space or any kind of space that can be used for that purpose, we're going to create a website that'll allow people to kind of sort and see all the different options there are. So that's a really cool add-on.
Will this be an additional fee for the hotels to list, or?
No, we don't charge for membership because we're governmental.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just
everything we do is, you know, it's basically whoever's in the tourism business can be part of our activities.
No, I think it's great. I think this is an area that we have missed the mark on over the last minute.
It has been a real concerted focus on it, and you know, a couple of years down the road, we're looking at having a convention center in Cocoa Beach, but there's conversations about other convention center spaces potentially in Vieira.
Yeah, but there's still plenty of properties
right,
with good meeting space.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, and it's good to get our name out there before we have those big properties, because then, you know, the brand recognition will already be in place by the time we have those big spaces.
Absolutely.
Yeah. The last couple of slides, just of course, we can't do anything without measurement, and having some dollars for research is really critical. I mentioned Datafy, that's the cellular device tool. We also have our own research company on contract to do things like we talked about the Day Tripper study. We're going to have them do a Brightline study. Anything that we can think of, you know, future branding studies that we want to do, we have them on basically on contract, and we can just add those programs in. And then of course, you know, just the regular, all the measurement tools we have, like the STR for hotel, key data for vacation rental, any kind of reports we get from Visit Florida, all of that falls under the research area. And then kind of to round out the budget, just the other items in the budget that weren't on another slide, were our travel. Travel is everything from Tom and Terry, myself, Laura, going on missions or trips or going to conferences. That's 32,000. That's flat to last year. Memberships 30,000. That's being a member of everything from outdoor travel writers, to visit Florida, all of those different organizations. 30,000, that's also flat to last year. And then the tax collector, of course, they get their 3%. So that rounds out the budget basically. So, Mr. Chair, that is it. Other than questions, we'd just be looking for give us their endorsement to take this to the DEC.
Any discussion where they're looking for a motion to recommend this plan?
Before that, just a quick question regarding the plan and communication. Next summer, we all know that Epic is opening up. What do you guys, first of all, what is your feelings? Do you think it's going to help hurt the area? And then are you doing any type of direct marketing, knowing that that is opening up in the marketplace?
Yeah, I mean, my feeling is,
Oh, sorry, Epic Universe.
It's the new Universal theme park.
Yeah.
Do you think it's going to steal some of it's going to take some of the theme park?
Well, I think from our perspective, it could go either way, right?
Right.
They're doing a sequester strategy, right? So they've already said, when you look at their sales and everything, the only way you can get an Epic ticket is to stay in a hotel, right? So they're already doing a sequester strategy, meaning that we usually, you guys, the beach gets the one extra day. Right. They're trying to take that away. The 1 or 2 extra days that a guest comes for 7, 8 days, and they're trying to take some of that away. You know? Yeah. So there's a negative there, but the positive is they're going to be driving new
incremental
into the market.
And I think that's my take on Orlando. Orlando generates 75 million visitors. I don't want all 75 million of them. We just need a percentage of them to come, right? So I just think having a new theme park is going to do nothing but help ultimately. And if those people don't come and stay next year, it could be the year after. So I think taking a little bit of a long-term perspective of just seeing everything going on in Orlando growing, I think just helps us ultimately. But that being said, we're going to have more launches. We're going to have more ships being home ported. Second largest ship in the world just got home ported here. They're looking at more and more. There's some new cruise lines coming. So I mean, I just think we have enough to pull that share, but also can rely on some of our own business, So question.
I make a motion to approve moving forward with the plan.
I'll second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you guys. Thank you you guys do a really good job preparing this. So we're really well educated, and I appreciate the effort you put into communicating.
And we appreciate lots of good questions and ideas. Keep them coming. So before you quickly adjourn, thank you guys for serving this year. This is our last scheduled meeting. If for some reason I don't anticipate, but if there's a need to reconvene before the end of the year, we will let you know. But other than that, thank you.
Thanks everybody for serving.
Thank you.
Oh, motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Second.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And just consider. Little picture.
Oh, yeah.
Whatever happens, great. With this war.